folks, welcome back to Indaba Africa. This is Chris once again. Reggae night, we come together when the feeling's right. Oh yeah. Hey folks, welcome back to Chris White. Hey, welcome back to Chris White Africa. I've got my this isn't really a reggae shirt, it's more of an African shirt, but it's kind of along that theme, so I've got that on today. My special featured guest today is none other than Free. She is a reggae musician, performer, and songwriter, I believe, as well. And she's from South Africa. We're going to talk about the reggae scene in South Africa. Little did I know there is a reggae scene in South Africa. Only been there 450 times and never realized that there was a reggae scene in South Africa. Apparently, it's quite dynamic, at least in KZN. Free, welcome to the program on a Leka Leka Friday.
Thank you, Chris. Awesome to be here. Welcome too.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you on. And I don't know if your person celebrates Christmas or not, but if you do, Merry Christmas to you. And if you don't, Happy Christmas for the secular holiday.
Well, give thanks. We enjoy the festivities anyway. Yes.
There you go. Well, I don't know, because a lot of people in the reggae scene are Rastafarians, you know, and it's a religion in and of itself, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if that's...
Absolutely. And I think also we celebrate, we definitely don't celebrate Christ's birthday on the 25th of December.
Yeah.
So, so it's not a big Christmas celebration, but it's definitely a holiday for I and I, yes.
There you go. Well, I mean, it's like the Ethiopians have a completely different calendar. They celebrate Christmas like a week or two later than the rest of us do in
exactly.
the modern world. Yeah. And
as well as the New Year, yeah.
Right, and of course the Rastafarians get their inspiration, if I'm not mistaken, from Haile Selassie, the former emperor of Ethiopia.
That's correct, yes.
Hey, I'm doing all right. I might become a Rasta here.
You know your things, yeah. There's a little bit of a dispute amongst the Rastas when it comes to Haile Selassie's Imperial Majesty, because there's a misconception that Rastas believe that he is God.
Yeah, no, that's why I didn't say that, because I know it's a misconception.
Yes, it's definitely a misconception. It's his teachings very clearly indicate and teach that we are all one and we are all equal. Mm-hmm. So it's in that sense that we are created in the image of the Creator, and we are all creators, and we are all equal in our abilities to create our own destiny and our own future. Yeah.
Well, that's excellent. Thanks. Is it accurate? Would it be accurate to say that perhaps he was a prophet in the view of some folk, or is that incorrect?
No, definitely yes. We definitely view him as a prophet.
Okay, that was my understanding. So okay, and I did all that without any ganja. Didn't smoke any weed to figure that out.
Yeah, and even more than that, I mean, on a political front, he was such an incredible leader and teacher to the Ethiopian people, and even in front of the League of Nations, and I even understand that he is the only person that the Queen of ever bowed in front of.
Wow. Well, that's impressive. Of course, Barack Obama, our former president, bowed before the King of Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, it's...
yes, well...
Which I took great offense at. But anyway, that's just me. But listen, let me ask you, let's get started. We're going to talk about the reggae scene in South Africa. Your name is Free. That's interesting because in Africa, I know a lot of folks whose kids are given interesting names like Gift and Mercy and Charity and things like that, especially the girls. But also boys are given names like that too. In Swana culture, that's prominent. When I lived in the library, it was prominent too. Now, if I understand correctly, that wasn't your given name at birth. That's a name you chose.
It is. Yes. In the year 2000, it was, I think, when the whole, there was such a spiritual shift from 2000 onwards, and I needed to change everything about everything in my life. Mm-hmm. And I needed to change my name in order to do that. And I meditated a long while on the name, and I needed the ultimate name. I needed the name that I could aspire to have the best experience of life. Mm-hmm. This time around. So yeah, in fact, that I don't even want to ever have to come again. I just want to have this life. And that's the other thing. We believe we have one life. It's not, we have one eternal life. Mm-hmm. One eternal life that never leaves. The body dies, but the life continues. So that was my goal, was to take a name that I could embody and really strive towards becoming the most free that I could be.
Okay.
My birth given name is Leanne, and it's a pretty name. It's just common and boring, and it just didn't work. It didn't work for me anymore.
Well,
so yeah, I did.
To be fair, free is common too, but not as a given name.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a funny name because people think the mind and the way we've been mind controlled is to think of free as being something for nothing.
Yeah.
So it actually takes us completely away from the true meaning of freedom. And I think that's a lot of where we got lost with our words and the use of language and how we've been literally tricked by language. And so even the Rastafarian culture and in reggae music, we are very aware of our language and the words that we use. For example, we speak of I and I because of the understanding that we are all one. I am you and you are me. Mm-hmm. So, so just being very aware of every word and every thought and every action being in alignment with one another, that is how we manifest ultimate whatever it is that we want. So well, for me, it's freedom.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting for me. So I appreciate the emphasis on vocabulary and language because language is incredibly powerful. Language can motivate, language can inspire, language can demonize. Language is very important. And we misuse these words all the time. And when you say free, when I first heard that was your name, my first thought wasn't to, cheap or inexpensive goods, but I'm thinking of liberation, freedom, release. That's what I thought of. That's independence.
It is.
Okay, so I was on the right track. But yeah, people misuse words. I mean, so for instance, in the States, we hear all the time about sports heroes. Sports players are not heroes. They're icons, perhaps. They're popular figures, but a hero is someone that does something heroic. Playing basketball is not heroic.
Yeah, that's how we've been confused. Exactly. We've had our focus taken away from what is real and right towards what is not real and what is not right.
Well, then you also have the abuse. You also have the abuse of words too. Like for instance, racism has lost almost all meaning. It's a real thing. It's a terrible thing. But anybody that is angry at someone else just calls them a racist to shut them down, and it really cheapens the word. It's like the boy who cried wolf.
It is. Yeah. And if we want to go into Black Lives Matter and all of that, it's a big mess. It's a mess, especially for us here in Africa. It's not what it looks like. It's totally misrepresented. Even here, there is so much confusion, and it just causes separation and disunity. Mm-hmm. And that is what Rasta is really moving away from. We are original. We want to be back to the original man, the way we were originally, then the way we are intended to be, natural man. That's why our hair is natural. We don't eat meat. We eat all natural and organic. And it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It just gradually, it comes into you until you feel like you can't do these things anymore. And it's a purification of the mind, spirit, and body and soul. That's been my experience of Rastafari, and it's a beautiful journey because it really teaches you to be non-judgmental and non-attached, all the good universal principles that we strive to live by.
I'll tell you, if you lived in the States now, that'd be a hard row to hoe. I mean, I'm telling you, non-judgmental with the president we have, I don't think he's all there. It's not being judgmental, but I'm saying it's tough. It's tough to sit on the sidelines with that. But I do appreciate it. It's not just non-judgmental, but so my experience is, with people obviously in the reggae scene who are Rastafarians, have not experienced their spiritual aspects from a standpoint of interacting in that way. But I enjoy and really like, one of my favorite forms of music is reggae. It's awesome. I've got a huge collection of reggae, Bob Marley, and all kinds of stuff going back. But I'm not into the Caribbean culture where it's 1,000 degrees and 100% humidity. That's too warm for me. The island culture. Yes. And of course the other thing that's associated with this is whether it's accurate or not is marijuana. And I'm a person that doesn't care for that. So, but nonetheless, I respect the Rastafarian community immensely. It's their faith. Yes. I also love reggae music, and so as someone who's not part of that culture, I I can enjoy it. And I think maybe that's one of the appeals of reggae is that if you're not part of it, you can still appreciate it and get something out of it.
Exactly. And it's not about smoking herb and growing dreadlocks. It's not at all. Rastafari is in your heart. It's in your intentions, and it's in everything that motivates you in life that is good and positive. The dreadlocks, if I can just speak on that for a moment.
Yeah.
Our understanding is that the hair is an extension of our nervous system.
Okay.
So when you cut your hair, you are disconnecting yourself from source. So when you grow your hair, but in particular when you lock your hair, it retains energy.
Oh, it locks it in.
It's like an antenna.
Ah,
yes, it's actually an antenna. It's a nervous system. So it's an extension of the nervous system that allows us to be more sensitive and more intuitive and more in touch with the source. And a little story to go with that is that in your American Civil War, apparently they were using Native American Indians to track as trackers. And when they enlisted them in the military, they cut their hair and they lost their power.
Ah, they couldn't track anymore. Interesting.
They couldn't track.
It's interesting. Yes. We use Native Americans as trackers, and then we use Navajo as code talkers, just speaking their own language because no one else could understand. The Japanese couldn't break it.
Yes.
It was better than it was an impregnable code. And then the South African forces used the Bushmen, the San, in the border war because they were the best trackers out there. It's just interesting.
Yes.
So kind of parallels between our two sides there.
Yes.
But listen, I have to tell you, your description of why people wear dreadlocks makes far more sense to me than the last 24 months of listening to the Centers for Disease Control and Dr. Fauci on the side Atlantic. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm still trying to understand what's going on with this other stuff, but now I at least understand why the dreadlocks are all about. That's pretty cool.
Yes. And then also on that note, the smoking herb.
Yeah,
it's not compulsory to smoke as a Rastafari, although we understand it to be a way of again connecting and becoming closer to our Creator, because it bypasses all the nonsense. It just puts us on a you can call it a high, but it's not a drug-induced state. It's just a state of mind where we go deeper.
Okay.
You become insightful, and it gives us clarity and inspiration. And I mean, when I smoke, for me, the first thing I want to do is just pick up my guitar and play. So that's a good thing for me, and it makes me feel creative. And the other thing about reggae music is it's a very heartical music, and the beat of reggae works with the heart.
Yeah.
So I think that's what distinguishes reggae music from other genres of music, and that's what captures everybody. And you don't have to be a Rasta to enjoy reggae music, which is what you were chatting about earlier.
Yeah, not at all.
That's what makes it completely universal. And when I got into the reggae scene, it was actually, I really saw it as I saw my role as a bridge between cultures. So I just saw it as a way for me to bridge our European culture and our African culture. And over the last 25 years, I've really committed myself and dedicated my life to that by working with the local reggae community, who are largely Rastafarian, but not exclusively Rastafarian.
Okay, cool.
So we don't push the Rastafarian culture. We absolutely push unity culture. And that's how we've managed to bridge the gap between Black, white, and all nations. And that's what separates reggae from most other music.
I'd have to agree with you 100%. Absolutely. It's I've never ever walked in or approached somewhere, a fairground or a venue or a club or a bar or, you know, a parade ground where reggae was playing and never was ever assaulted by the sound? I've never been assaulted by reggae, but I can't say that about other genres of music. You're like, whoa, you know, it's very shocking at times, some genres, but reggae is always like a welcoming vibe. And you just kind of, you almost, I mean, no matter who you are, you almost kind of like want to start bebopping a little bit as you come up. It really draws you in. And that's why I always found it so interesting. And I really enjoyed it. But it's what you said about I love how people always call it the herb. To me, herbs are like are spices and things for food. But anyway, I'm just saying. But when people enjoy the herb when I was at university, I didn't. But when they did, they got the munchies. I don't think they got inspired. So I'm glad to hear that people draw inspiration from it. That's pretty cool. It's interesting to hear. But so you said, if you don't mind me asking, if it's too personal, you don't have to answer this. But I think you said you're at birth, the given name was Leanne. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So is your ethnic background, is it Anglo? Is it Afrikaner? Is it color? What is your background?
Mixed. My mom was Afrikaans from the Dutch side, and my dad was English from the English side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just curious. It's interesting.
Yes.
Because South Africa is a kaleidoscope of people. You know that. I know that.
Yes.
That's one of the things I find so appealing about it. You know, it's interesting on my program last year when I was being trolled by people. People came on, of course, unlike Martin Luther King, they judge people by their appearance, not by the content of the character. And on my program, I promote 3 languages in South Africa. I have no issue with any of them, but it's 3 that I'm familiar with, and that's Afrikaans and Tswana and Sotho, and especially Southern Sotho. So I promote those things. And I've had guests on who speak Sotho and more who speak Tswana, because I know that. I used to live in Botswana. And of course, I have an affinity with Afrikaans. It's a pretty interesting. So I promote those things. Last year, a guy came on my channel and watched a few minutes, and then he went off on Twitter and started attacking me and saying, oh, this KKK, white racist, white supremacist. Yeah, he claims to speak African languages, because I do speak 6 languages to varying degrees. 3 of them are African. And I do tell people that on my program. So he says, oh, yeah, he goes on, he says Sawabona, and he thinks he can speak African languages. The funny thing about it is that this is about unity, about dividing people. That's why I'm mentioning it. The funny thing about it is that when he went to Twitter, of course, you're from KZ, and Sawabona means I see you. It's Zulu. I don't claim to speak Zulu. It's the only word in Zulu that I know, and I only know it because of South African Airways. It was the name of their in-flight magazine. That's how I learned it. So I never claim to speak it. I just, when I greet people, I greet them in multiple languages, even languages I don't speak, as a sign of courtesy, because I have a global audience. So the guy goes on Twitter and he calls me a white supremacist and a KKK supporter, all this stuff, ignoring the fact that I actually promote Black Africans in South Africa and colored Indians. And then he misspelled Sawabona. So, I mean, how hard is this? I mean, just phonetically, Sawabona. And if you don't know, look it up on Google. Google's your friend, at least for this. So that is the complete opposite of unity. Indeed. That's people trying to break us down and divide us. And I appreciate the message that reggae brings about unity, because if South Africa needs something right now, it's unity. My goodness.
Yes. Yes, the whole world needs unity. I do see that this whole agenda is, I think the primary purpose of the agenda is disunity. And the more we do to try and bring ourselves together, the more they try to separate us. Reggae, if I can just talk about the genre of reggae in South Africa.
Yeah, please do.
And probably why you were not even aware that we have a reggae scene in South Africa. Reggae is like the orphan child of the music industry that's been abandoned. And when I say abandoned, I'd say after Lucky Dube's passing, there was a huge gap left in the reggae, and it has never regained its position. Lucky Dube obviously took reggae to the highest heights internationally. And his passing came as such a shock to our nation, and it came at such a very important time in our country politically, that it's just like there was this vacuum. But unbeknown to the rest of the world, there were many, 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 many bands actually in the townships forming and performing and just spreading the message, just really spreading the message of unity. And then this phenomenon of dancehall music arrived, which is a spin-off of reggae. And they've used it again to detract from reggae music. So because reggae was never going to be accepted commercially, and no one was ever going to make money out of reggae, I think largely because of the impact that Lucky Dube had, because he had such a political stand and he made such a strong move on apartheid at the right time, that I think the government, which we know in 94, the so-called transition was really no transition at all. So,
so you replace one statist party that was socialist and was oppressing people with another party that is statist, socialist, and oppressing people.
That was still being controlled by the very same controllers. Yeah. That never changed. Yeah. And we also know that the world has been corporatized. Just like the USA is a corporation, South Africa is a corporation, or DC is a corporation, but USA is also a corporation, South Africa is a corporation. So our our president is not even our number one man. He's like number 3. So he's taking his orders from way up high. And yeah, so reggae was just stamped on, actually, because it was the means of getting the message out and really of connecting with people and getting people to know what was actually going on. So it's always been marginalized. And but as I say, there were many bands and it never died. And only because it wasn't getting radio airplay, because it was getting no support from on the production side. But it didn't mean that there was not reggae happening. So we started when I started in the reggae scene, it was through a meeting of a band from Pietermaritzburg in 1996. And that was where my interest really began. And I subsequently met up with more reggae bands and we started to create a platform. We started a Bob Marley event, a yearly Bob Marley event, where we would just invite the bands because we had no budget, because there was no support really for reggae. But we started the event until people and corporations started to recognize that we were actually bringing a crowd, and we were bringing a different crowd. We were not bringing a rasta crowd. We were actually bringing a completely cross the board audience. And that is when people started to take notice. And that's when we started to get some support. But still, not on radio, not on television. And to get any other kind of support was just a struggle.
Yeah, that's a killer if you can't get on radio, because whatever people say, radio is where music takes off. Even if people download MP3s, it takes off on radio. And you can have a local scene, which is what you all have and have had, but that doesn't get the widespread attention and draw people in, which is unfortunate. Yes.
So the bands that I've been working with, we've created a platform called Durban Reggae Explosion, and we've got 6 bands right now working under us, as well as DJs and individual artists. And little by little, so we've registered our business as a non-profit organization, and little by little, we are getting the recognition that we are asking for. And recently, in fact, yesterday, I think I mentioned the event that I went to. So yesterday what happened was a celebration of Lucky Dube's band and previous vocalists. So they have now come back and they are now launching the House of Reggae and House of Legends, as well as the House of Women in Reggae. So this is the real legends of reggae, the original band and backing vocalists of Lucky Dube, who have just made a serious comeback and who are also going international. And they've invited us as local artists to showcase our bands, and they've really loved what they've been introduced to. And we're going to be joining them on the tour next year firstly across South Africa with Taj Weeks, Michael Rose, Aswad, a couple of other quite profound and high-profile artists from Jamaica and the States. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to be quite a shift in our reggae music industry. Just to say that we are not going anywhere. We are just growing.
Oh, well, no, reggae is not going anywhere. Maybe people think it is in South Africa. It's not going to go away. Yeah. It's just too popular.
No.
Yeah. Let me do a little let me do a little admin real quick.
Sure.
If that's sorry. Yeah, folks, you're listening to Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel, part of the Indaba Broadcasting Network. I'm sorry, Free. I just had to do that. I do it. I was in radio in the past, and that was a regulation for the Federal Communications Commission. You had to announce your station at the top and bottom of the hour. It's not required on YouTube, but I'm just in the habit of doing it. Even though it was 40 years ago when I used to do that, it's just a habit to do. But it just reminds people what to listen to. So I interrupt you. I'll let you finish that, and then I've got some comments and things I need to add in here. But go ahead.
No, I was just talking about just reggae as a genre. No, please continue with your questions.
Sure. Well, questions and a few statements too. It's music really is something. I mean, and from South Africa, those outside South Africa, of course, I have a global audience. But outside South Africa, people have heard some of the giants. Lucky Dube, of course, you talked about. Johnny Clegg is another giant, and then of course, Ladysmith Black Mambazo, another huge giant of music. And these folks influenced people during the end towards the end of apartheid, waking people up, getting their eyes open with music. Paul Simon went to South Africa and recorded with Ladysmith Black Mambazo, and he was a massive artist at the time. All of that had an impact on people becoming aware of things. Music can do that. It can unite people. It can also open people's eyes up about injustices and unfairness, which is pretty cool about it. But there's been some real giants of South African music who died in the past number of years. And, of course, the murder of Lucky Dube, which is horrific for his freaking car. That was just unbelievable. I mean, he was like 43, I think, at the time when he was murdered. But that's 2007, I think, when he was murdered.
Tragic.
And then Johnny Clegg died from cancer just 2 years ago in 2019. And it's a different genre, but from a standpoint within South Africa, Tins Jordan just passed away from leukemia. He was huge in the Afrikaans community and very popular, very distinct voice.
Yes.
So it's really sad to see these popular and well-respected and beloved musicians leave the stage. It's unfortunate, particularly when none of those people that we're talking about led bad or mischievous lives. They actually made great contributions, and they're all gone too soon. Yeah. Oh, the way that they unite people, like Johnny Clegg was just phenomenal in bringing people together. And, that is why people cannot say we are racist here in South Africa. I think we are really least racist. We are least racist. Well, it's just a crazy thing. My experience, Free, is that South Africans, whether they're Venda, Xhosa, Afrikaners, Zulu, it doesn't matter, Coloreds, Khoisan, it doesn't matter. Almost every South African I've ever met, and I've met thousands of them, they're not racist. Some might be bigots.
I will testify to that. Yeah. No,
some might be bigots because they've been misled or told stupid things about people. But that can be unlearned. That can be unlearned. But we can't hide. There are racists in our midst. We know that they're out there. But fortunately, it's a small number of people. The problem is that in South Africa, race is a weapon, even today. You would hope
it's
that
been imposed on us.
Right.
You would have thought
at the end of apartheid we could get away from that, and the world was kumbaya. The 27th of April, 1994, Rainbow Nation. But that was just the veneer thrown over top of things.
Yes.
Once politicians had to hide what they were doing, race comes back into the equation. Yeah, it's sad.
Yes.
It's really
but
sad.
Chris, I've been just watching two cases that have been going on in the States: the Kyle Rittenhouse and Yassi Smollett.
Right. Yeah.
two such interesting cases that just highlight the fake agenda of what they are doing.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, first off, they call Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist with no evidence.
Imagine. Imagine.
And he's a 17-year-old kid. They call him that because they're using him as a foy to spread their hatred. And Kyle Rittenhouse, and so it's interesting because I have an international audience and people come on like, what do you mean he's not a racist? He shot black people. Okay, well, first off, shooting black people doesn't make you a racist if it's a justified
Yes.
shooting. But we don't want anybody to
Yes.
have it. But first, he didn't shoot any black people. Everybody he shot was white. One was a convicted pedophile.
Exactly.
A convicted pedophile who raped little boys and girls.
Dude.
Oh, I mean, come on. And so
Dude.
their agenda is just so obvious. And then with Jussie Smollett, okay, the whole thing was implausible. First off, look, I know what Empire is, but I don't watch it because I tried. 5 minutes, I found it boring. It wasn't my taste.
Yes.
And so I'm familiar with the show, but I never heard of Jussie Smollett. He was a child actor. Never heard of him.
Yeah.
And he walks around arrogant, like a lot of people in Hollywood. Like people know who he is. We're supposed to bow before him. He's some famous person that's done something. He's an actor. Apparently, he can sing, but he wanted more money, and they wouldn't give him more mony for the show. So he figured to concoct a fake racist incident.
Imagine.
I know,
what a flop.
but free. I mean, look, if he was in Miami on holiday and he claimed this happened, it might have been plausible. But this is what he says. It's minus 16 degrees Fahrenheit, not Celsius, in Chicago, where the wind blows at 40 knots in the dead of winter. And these two white supremacist Trump MAGA supporters came up from the deep south, and they had shirts on, said MAGA, and they had nooses. So they're waiting for a gay black man, mixed race, by the way. He's not black. He's mixed race.
Yeah.
But a gay black man in Chicago in an upscale neighborhood. They drove all the way from Alabama just to hunt him down. Seriously, if these racist homophobes want to murder gay black men, there's plenty of them in Mississippi.
Truly. Yeah.
But you do highlight something here.
Yeah.
These are the race merchants, the race hustlers that are dividing people on our appearance. Underneath this, we're almost all the same. In fact, we're almost like chimpanzees. There's virtually no difference in our DNA. 3%.
Yeah. And I can tell you that African people are just the most purest hearted people you'll ever meet. I'm sure you know that.
Oh, I can I'll let you finish. I'll give you an anecdotal story.
That's why I resonate, because we just connect on a pure humanity level. And I say that without exception. I don't know any bad, and there are bad people everywhere, black, white, Indian, colored, wherever, but I love African people. I don't think that there's a purer kind of person, just like your Native American Indians and the indigenous Aboriginals and Maoris and all of they are the heart of our planet. So we all have a lot to learn from them. And when we make that connection, that's when we connect with our own source. I think we've been so disconnected as Europeans that for me, coming home is to know our African people and to connect with them and to live with them and to share with them and to understand each other. That's where my whole focus is, because our, especially as Rasta, our most foundational theme is oneness, that we are one. And I know that if I am one with you, I will never hurt you because I will be hurting myself.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
And that's the other thing about racism, is that if I'm calling you a racist, it's me that's the racist because we are all one.
That's right. Hello, pot. This is Kettle. You're black.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. No, but let me give you an anecdote. But first, Alvin Meyer said he regularly listens to reggae news on Level the Vibes on Bush Radio 89.5 FM in Cape Town every Thursday night from 10 to 1 a.m. Oh, that's cool. That's good to hear that. Yeah, no, so the anecdotal story, look, every group, every clan, every tribe, every nation is capable of immense contributions, also capable of horrific things and disrespect. But just give an example of how people can just be good-natured. And this is one of the reasons why I've offended with Africa, because a lot of things about Africa are very similar to the States, and most people don't realize that. I'm a conservationist. I'm not an environmentalist. I'm not some person that's going to stand on the beach and complain about people taking natural resources out. But I'm going to protect the resources. I'm going to conserve them. I'm going to replenish them. I'm going to plant trees. I'm going to protect the soil, stuff like that. That's the kind of person I am. And I'm very close with nature because it's been a big part of my life. I was a farmer, and when I was in my youth, and so it's always stuck with me. And then as a soldier, if you don't understand the earth, then you're going to wind up dead in combat. Trust me, it's not a good thing. So here's the anecdotal story. I was in Ivory Coast. This must have been 20 years ago, 21 years ago, something like that. And I had my embassy vehicle and I traveled around. I've been to Ghana and I was coming back and I crossed the border. And well, there's two stories. I'll put them together and make it quicker. But so I'm crossing the border. And the problem with Africa is this. This is a problem with Africa. If you run in Africa, not South Africa, but the rest of Africa, you run in Africans who've ever been to America. Oh my gosh, they got to talk your ear off about their experiences in America because they love America. They had a great time there. They wanted to. And if you're even 1,000 miles from where they lived, then they think like they're your neighbor and they want to tell you all about. So, and that's just my point is. So I got to the border crossing, and the border agent at the Ghanaian border, going over to Ivory Coast, had lived in Maryland, and I'm from Maryland originally. I was born in Baltimore. So he looks at my passport and he goes, "Oh, you're born in Baltimore. I used to live in I think he lived in Chevy Chase, something like that." He goes, I live there. I said, "Oh, it's interesting." 2 hours later, no embellishment. I'm like, oh my gosh, man, I got to get across the border. The sun's going to go down. I mean, I'm not saying that, obviously. I'm trying to be polite, but eventually I get across the border. So I get across the border now. I'm a little bit short of time. I was headed to Yamoussoukro to see the Catholic basilica there that Houphouët-Boigny had built just because he built it. Not that there's a lot of Catholics in Ivory Coast, but anyway. So I was going to go see that. But I'm driving along on a red laterite road, and my tire blows. And it's gravel and dirt, so it's not much. There's not much. It's like being on ice, and your brakes lock up.
Yeah.
So I had to struggle not to lose control of this Toyota Land Cruiser, and so I'm counter steering, trying to, and I managed to bring it to a stop, kind of at an angle, but into the side where the road is cantered like this, so it's not a ditch, but it fades off. So I backed up backed up, and they're like, oh, I got a flat tire. So okay, well, I went and opened up the back. There's a jack in there. I'd checked before I left. I took the jack and I took the lug wrench and all that. And so I jack up the truck, and then I go to take the tire off underneath. It's got this crazy Toyota lock on it, which I can't remove. I'm like, oh man. So I get my mobile out. I do have coverage. I call the embassy and I said, hey, where's the key for the lock? I didn't know you locked the spare tire because of theft. And they said, oh, it's at the embassy. It's at the embassy. I'm like, okay. Well, that's not helping me. I'm about 200 kilometers from the embassy. What am I supposed to do? So this Ivorian truck driver, we're speaking French, of course, he pulls up behind me. It is 46 degrees if it's 40 degrees. It was so hot, and I'm dripping because I'm not wearing shorts. I've got trousers on and a shirt. I'm dripping wet, and I've got to change, and it's all this, how red soil sticks to your body. And this guy pulls up because I've been laying on the ground going underneath. He pulls up and he goes, "You okay?" I said, "I got a flat tire." He said, "Why don't you put spare on?" I said, "Well, I would, but I don't have the lock for the key for the lock." He said, "Oh, it's a Toyota. Hang on a second." I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "No, I can get off." I said, please don't break anything." Don't worry about that. So he gets on there, he takes the crowbar, he pops the thing, doesn't damage it. The tire comes off, and he rolls out, and he sits over, and he starts trying to change tires. I said, no, I'll get that. Thank you. He goes, no. Listen, brother, you look like you've been in the sun for a while. Just relax. Let me change it for you. So he changed my tire for me. He put the flat one back in underneath the vehicle. He put the cable back on properly and locked it again, so I couldn't have taken it off. And then I offered him some money, and he refused. He wouldn't take any money. He didn't do it for money. He did it because he's a good Samaritan, just like I would have been. I've done that for people.
Yes.
And so he fixes, but he did take some water. I was able to give him some water, and I was happy about it.
Oh, good.
Because I had a little cooler with some ice in it from the hotel the previous day, and it was still cold, so he really appreciate that. But I mean, that's what Americans are like, and that was really cool to see that in an Ivorian. So yeah, it was a great experience.
And you know what? That is what humans are like.
Yeah, real people.
That is human. That's what real people are like, and that's all we all want. We just want that, so that we know that when we are in need, that we are always going to have someone to help us. Our brothers, our sisters, and we are all one. We don't have to ever, that's why we don't have to fear in life, because what you do unto others is what you'll have done unto you. And we just, as long as we live by that, that's why you met the right guy at the right time when you need it. That is the nature of life. Because
I could have been stuck there for hours, into the darkness, because I wasn't going to break. I didn't have to even break that cable.
And Chris, what are the chances of somebody who knows that?
Well, to be fair, in Africa, it's probably high. A lot of people know how to break into things. No, but I your point is well taken. I didn't know how to do it. I mean, but obviously this guy's not a thief, but he knows how to repair vehicles, and he was familiar with that technique. So it was really awesome. Yeah. So what happened is we
that's
changed
a wonderful story. Yeah,
changed the tire. I went back, but now it's getting too late to get to Yamoussoukro because I didn't have a hotel there. So I just drove back to Abidjan, and because I had a room there that I could get in pretty quickly because the embassy has a rooms blocked off, and I got a room at the hotel. And so that was an interesting experience, and I really which gave me an opportunity to go to Germany. German restaurant because I stayed another night in Abidjan, and I love German food. There's a German restaurant there by a German, so that was kind of cool. Nice little spinoff. But I never did see the Basilica in Yamoussoukro, and it's not really that interesting to me now. So I probably never go see it. But
Okay. Yeah.
But it's when you talk about people and people helping each other, that's what's so irritating. Last year, when the 27th of March and President Cyril Ramaphosa imposed a 3-week lockdown to get the hospitals ready, get the beds ready. Yeah, by the way, there are fewer hospital beds today in South Africa than there were on the 27th of March last year, owing to the Charlotte Maxeke Hospital fire, plus one in Northwest Province. There are fewer intensive care beds than there were when Ramaphosa shut this country down. Now, 22 months of unlawful, unconstitutional state of disaster. But anyway, so last year when that happened, lots of South Africans of means who had, and even people who had limited means, and I'm talking about hundreds, thousands of people went to townships and neighborhoods and to rural areas where people were less fortunate, didn't have resources, didn't have the money, and couldn't survive without help. And they were harassed by police. They were threatened with imprisonment. They had their food confiscated from them. And we find out that much of the food wound up in the hands of members of the ruling party and in their councillor houses, and they were using it for themselves and selling it.
Yes.
And this is just disgraceful what happened.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It's disgusting.
And the press barely covered this, barely talked about it.
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. We are very confused, The public here are very confused. They're completely controlled by the media, mainstream media. And the small minority of us who are more open-minded and more aware of what is really going on are very much ostracized. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I can see that, and the thing is, here's the thing. If you don't fit into a preconceived notion of who you're supposed to be, then certain powers and beings demonize you. That's just the way. Like, for instance, first off, I mean, by your appearance, I assume in your ethnicity, you're a white lady. You're a white lady, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in today's world, you can't with 9,000 genders, and yeah. Okay, but you're a white lady, and the presumption is you're a reggae performer. Well, how can you be a reggae performer? I mean, you probably get hit with that frequently. What's the white chick doing over there?
Yeah, I think when I started out, actually. Performing with a band, with a great band, the Meditators. This is back in 2000.
You're still with that band now.
I am, but I'm managing them. So what happened was I had a distinct sense that there was not a good support for this mix. And I felt somehow that it might be detrimental to the success of the band, just because things were very sensitive at the time. Around between 94 and 2000, things were still settling down, and things were still we were still finding our way. But I just got the sense that I needed to be up there, and it needed to be a good thing. And if I was sensing that what is this white woman doing here in this thing? And this was coming from African people.
Yeah.
Sadly, to the point where I stepped away and I said, no, you know what? I'll focus on marketing and bookings and all that, and let's see. And the band has progressed fantastically. So it took me a long time to come back to putting myself up on stage again in that format. And I feel now like I'm more ready. So whether it was something external or whether it doesn't
Your connection's really breaking up now. Perhaps maybe if you exit and reconnect, maybe we'll get better. Just try that real quick, okay?
All right.
Hopefully we won't lose you. But folks, that's Free. Her connection got really spotty. I had a hard time picking up half what she was saying. So I'll give her a chance to exit and then try to come back into the stream, and hopefully she'll pick up a better data feed there. She's still not out yet. Okay.
Should I leave?
Yeah, leave and then try to log back in to the shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Yeah. So my apologies for that. It's a date issue. Hopefully she'll be back in just a second. This is a very fascinating portion of the conversation. Merry Christmas to everybody. And if you celebrate Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah, which has just ended recently, if I'm not mistaken. For some reason, I get the dates wrong this year. But welcome to everybody to the program. That's free. She's a reggae performer in South Africa. And we were just talking about people's preconceived notions about others, which is, of course, quite an interesting phenomenon. Hopefully she'll be, here she comes, she's coming back. Hopefully it's a better connection. Fingers crossed. Or as we say in German, ich drücke die Daumen. Die Daumen. I push my thumbs, which is the same as saying cross your fingers, Anyway, so here she comes. Hopefully the connection's better. So give her just a second to get back in there, and we'll get back to what she was talking about, which was quite interesting. And unfortunately, the mobile provider was acting up. So, all right, the audio is still connecting. Okay, now it's connected. The audio is. So I love about Zoom is nice, but it isn't perfect, folks. It still needs a little bit of work, despite the fact that they have people all over the world. Okay, now she's there on camera, but the audio, your audio is on silent. I can't hear your audio for some reason. It's connecting now, okay? All right. Come on, audio. Come on, connect. It's trying to connect. Give it a second. It's I know, it's mobiles and Zoom. Sometimes they don't want to play nice. It's particularly if you've got if your connection gets weak. No, it's still connecting. Can you say something now? No, I can't hear you. It's connecting again. That's weird. It's not connecting the audio. No, I can't hear you free. Oh my goodness. You're pointing to your eyes and I don't know what you're trying to tell me. Sorry. Give it a second here. It's trying to go one more time. It doesn't want to connect. Okay. I don't know why the audio does it. I wish I knew the answer to that, but somehow people are able to usually get in after 3 or 4 tries. Yeah. Okay. She's going to try to go out and come back in again. Yeah. I hope you like the Christmas holiday frame I've put around this for this stream. Pretty cool, huh? So let me just take it off. You can see that's the image right there. It's like a tabletop, like a barn table with gifts and trees and little snowflakes and everything around it. So I hope you like that. It's for Christmas. Okay, let's try to get her back in here. Avron says, just because you're happy, it does not mean the day is perfect, but that you have looked beyond its imperfections. Bob Marley. Okay, thanks for that quote. Who are you to judge the life I live? I know I'm not perfect and I don't live to be, but before you can... Oh, another Bob Marley. Avron is obviously a fan of Bob Marley. Chris Redlinghoys is here, and she's back, and the audio is connecting. It's still connecting. See, what happens is when it tries to connect, it says connecting. It does little things like this, like levels, and then it gives an X when it's not connected. It's just strange. I don't know if your mic is on. It shouldn't be on mute because it's not connected yet. It's not connecting. That's really weird. Okay, here's another option. I can try to bring you in on WhatsApp. So let me do that, okay? Go ahead and leave this, and I'll call you on WhatsApp. Oh, wait, there it is. Wait, I can hear you. Are you there?
Got you. Thank you. I don't know what happened. Thank you. I'm so glad. I was nearly going to give up.
No. I was going to take us to WhatsApp. We could do it there, but it's not. It's not very,
okay.
Yeah, it's not very convenient. It's awkward, but I could have done it. But okay, so now you're 100%. You're 100%. I can hear you fantastic. So my apologies, folks.
Fabulous.
You were explaining something to us, and it was like you were like that's what it sounded like.
Okay, I can't even remember. What were we talking about?
We were talking about people's expectations when you enter the industry, and what's this white woman, and it was black Africans that actually looked at you like that. You were saying, yeah.
Yes. Well, as I said, I think it might have been my perception. So as I've grown and as I've my understanding and my as my understanding has increased, I realize that, and especially the Rastafari overstanding, is that everything is from within. Mm-hmm. So anything that I was experiencing externally was actually within I and I. So it was me that was having those issues. So I had to grow and overcome that. And I've come back very much renewed and very much stronger, and actually feeling very confident and very, very comfortable in my space now to work and to be that balance of creation. It's really a balance of creation, because I think the more that white people and black people and we all mix it up. I'm I was in a biracial relationship, so my children are both mixed race. So I've really entrenched myself in that, and I've had to deal with everything that goes with it, from being ostracized by my own family
on both sides. I'm sure. Yeah,
very much. But it's really just brought me to a place of deep understanding of what oneness really is. I always go back to that, because if the whole world could know oneness, that's the unity consciousness that we are striving for. And I just wanted to say something, because you spoke a little bit about your current president, and I'm a big Trump fan. I'm a huge Trump fan, and I really see Donald Trump as a very uniting person. I see him actually uniting the whole world.
Well, the thing is that's why. Okay, look. I'll share my views very quickly about Donald Trump, so this makes sense. So you have to have this. Okay, first off, when he ran for office in 2016, I told people who are friends of mine who are deeply religious evangelical Christians that he's a used car salesman, that he's P.T. Barnum, that he's a showman, that he'll break your heart, he'll never follow through. He's been a Democrat, he's been a Republican, he's been pro-abortion, he's been anti-abortion, he's been whatever he needed to be to fit in, and that's who Donald Trump is. That's what I told him, because that was my understanding of him, and I may have been been correct in my assessment in 2015, 2016. But what I will say is the following. Excuse me. I'm all choked up now. But what I'll say is the following, is that he proved me wrong, being the singular most conservative one-term president in the history of the United States. Now, not the most conservative, but one term, which is a very short period of time. And because of that, he followed through on every promise he was capable of following through, and then some.
Yes.
He did more for Black Americans than any president since Abraham Lincoln. And they call him a racist. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And they take everything out of context. They distort things. They make up entire stories about the guy, the Russia collusion narrative, which was a fraudulent, fake report paid for by Hillary Clinton, and then it was shared by members of our Congress. They investigate him. They undermine our domestic and our foreign policy for 3 years with this nonsense. They win Pulitzer Prizes for excellence in literature, like the New York Times, and they don't even have the honesty to return them when it's proven that it's a fake story. So in 2016, I voted for Donald Trump, and I held my nose. I'm like, this Hillary Clinton she's a criminal, and I can't vote for her.
Not an option.
Right. It's not an option. So I voted for Trump and held my nose and hoped for the best, and I got more than the best. In 2020, I enthusiastically endorsed and supported Donald Trump because he did more to unify this country. Now, you wouldn't know it if you watch the media internationally or here in the States.
No,
he's divisive. Never. He's destroyed this country. It's not true. He received 75 million votes as president. No one in the history of this country has ever received that many. Barack Obama only got 62 million votes when he ran for office the second time. Donald Trump gained 13 million voters in a re-election, despite the media being against him, no coverage of his campaign, lies about what he was doing. So just imagine, exactly. So I, from your standpoint that he can unite people, absolutely. And what gets me is the people he inspires. It's Black, it's Hispanic, it's white, it's Asian. People. Now, I'm not saying I love Donald Trump. I still think he's a bore. He's a cad. He's a bully. He's impolite.
We know this.
He's impolite. But I accept his imperfections for his outcomes, which are amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. That's my view on Donald Trump, and I think he can unify people.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know, but I've just recently noticed. I've just seen online that they've actually proven Barack Obama's birth certificate to be fake.
No, I didn't see that. And I don't really care about it.
I saw that.
I don't care about it.
But I saw it yesterday. But that was one of Donald Trump's biggest, strong things that he went for.
Well, and then that was even before he ran for office, and then they accused him of all kinds of things.
Yes.
It's interesting that anyway, I don't know how your kids identify, and they're welcome to identify any way they want because of their heritage. But it's interesting, in America, we have this stupid concept that sticks in people's minds, white and black, that one drop means you're Black. Vanessa Williams, when I get a tan, she's whiter than I am, and her eyes are deeper bluer than mine. And she's a child of incredible privilege, became Miss America, a television star. She's amazing. But she identifies as Black, and she does it to the detriment of her white heritage. And I don't get that. You should be proud of who you are in your skin. You're a mix of the two, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should be proud of both heritages. But anyway, it's just my thoughts.
Well, my children they're brown boys. They're not black or white. They're brown. They're brown boys. That's what they've always termed themselves.
Sounds like a band, the Brown Boys.
Yeah. No, that was a very very interesting choice of mine, and I think even a conscious choice, because for me it was some kind of a redemption. I don't know, a redemption process that I needed to go through, and it worked for me. It really did it brought me right down to where I needed to be, to lose all my privilege, to lose all my entitlement. I lost it all. And I had to start all over again, and very happily so. Yeah.
Well, this is just once again, we're just, I'm stuck here. Hang on. My entire life, what I've done is what I call subverting expectations. People look at you, they expect certain things, this, that, and the other. And my entire life is completely the opposite of what people assume of me. They know nothing about me when they look at me and judge me based on my appearance, which is foolish. So people, before they came to the stream, would have probably said, Chris has got a reggae artist on, a Rastafarian. That's an interesting thing. What's he just looking for clicks? No, I'm looking to talk. I'm looking to talk to interesting people. So that's the first thing. And next thing is that they might go, wait a second. Okay, so there's this white guy, there's this lady with dreadlocks who's Rastafarian. She was with a black guy and has mixed race kids. What do these two possibly have in common? Well, we got Trump in common. There's one thing right there. Who would have known? The reason I say that is that somebody just said, Light Rain says, okay, mind blown, Rasta Trump connection. Exactly. See, that's the lie. That's the myth about the world, that the people that run the world want you to fall for. We are just human beings, and we have the same interests and desires. We may have different cultural norms and do things slightly differently, but people can get along just fine. It's like religious wars. Religious wars are always a consequence of people seeking greater glory, power, and maniacal or egotistical outcomes. That's what it's about. So when Bosnia and Yugoslavia fell apart, it wasn't about Bosnians, Muslims, and Croat, Catholics, and Russian or Slav Orthodox. It was about political power. Slobodan Milosevic used religion and ethnicity to hoodwink people into murdering each other, to raping each other, and that's what happens in Iraq and Iran. That's what happens the world over, and it's what happens in South Africa. You've got people like Julius Malema running around, getting a rabble rousing, getting people excited about things, and just telling fairy tales and misstating history. But you know what? I've got to be honest here. Let's be fair. Let's get the story straight. The problems in South Africa are all attributable to a mixed race man named Jan van Riebeck. He ruined it all.
We got to blame somebody.
They forget he was the original colored. He wasn't even a white guy.
Oh, my Lord.
They forget all about that. Yeah, they never talk about Jan van Riebeck actually being part Batavian and part Dutch.
Well, let's not even talk about Christopher Columbus, but never mind. We won't go there.
There you go. Well, there's a lot of hating on Columbus, and a lot of things attributed to him that he had absolutely nothing to do with. Lots of things came after Columbus, but that was going to happen whether it was Columbus or it was Chris Wyatt in the 21st century. When the worlds met and collided, even if there had never been evil intent because of the state of technology and epidemiology at the time, populations in North America would have been wiped out by diseases unintentionally brought here, which is what happened. In fact, there were at least 15 to 25 million people living in the Mississippi tributaries in that basin before Europeans ever arrived. Almost all of them were dead, wiped out by influenza and smallpox, because the Spanish landed in Florida. They interacted with some Seminoles, the people who later became Seminoles, and then their feral pigs, which brought influenza. They infected Native Americans who had trade networks and carried it within a couple of years and wiped out millions of people who had no immunity to it. So even if there was no ill intent, that horrific thing was going to happen, which is sad. Now, if we could have kept the world separate until the 21st century, we had the science for jabs and medications, then we could have avoided all that. But people are curious. We got to go see what Pluto looks like. We got to see the surface of Mars. We got to see what's on the other end of that horizon. So we're always looking for the next stop. And people just go looking. So
So, Chris, something popped into my head. I just want a quick opinion of yours. So what's your opinion on Elon Musk?
Okay, I'll answer that, but very quickly, once again, folks, you're listening to Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel, part of the Indaba Broadcasting Network. For my international audience that doesn't know why it's called Indaba, that is a Zulu and Xhosa word, which means a consultation, a meeting like of elders to discuss things, to come up with a resolution, a consultation, essentially. Since I started a consultancy, and I learned a long time ago that for Americans, you can't have multisyllabic words. So I used the town of Bulawayo, 4 syllables, to create a fictional intelligence scenario when I was deployed to Israel 30 years ago. And I had a major who just couldn't pronounce it from the deep south. Let's try and so I realized that I thought I was being clever, and I decided that in future, when I ever try to use African words for North Americans, I'll keep it simple. Now, Indaba has 3 syllables, but it's almost an easy thing like even a child can pronounce. So anyway, so you're listening to Indaba Africa. Okay, you want to know my thoughts on Elon Musk. Okay. Smart guy, really smart. He's not stupid in any respect. He realized he couldn't make a fortune in South Africa in the climate it was in. And America is the El Dorado when it comes to business opportunity, although at the moment it's not, but it has been historically.
Yeah.
And so great visionary. I'll give him credit for that. He decided over 2 decades ago that he wanted to have a space program, a private company that launched people into space and got us to Mars, and he's there. We're getting there. It's unbelievable what SpaceX has done.
It is.
And what he did with PayPal, that's how he made his fortune initially, was with PayPal.
Yes.
And then he turned it into Tesla. Now I have all kinds of issues with Teslas because they tear down mountains for rare earth elements to make these batteries. They're toxic for the environment, and it's really just a rich white people's toy. Unless you have $60,000, you can't afford one. So I mean, I don't have a problem with electric powered cars. I mean, the original cars were electric when we started, before we had internal combustion, back a century ago. But the way they're oversold, the way that they're subsidized, I have issues with, because people who make a lot less money are subsidizing rich people buying those toys, and that bothers me.
Yes.
So I have all kinds of issues with that. But as far as him, other than his stupidity, in my view, that's my personal view, he went on a radio station. He's high, smoking weed, talking about, and I'm not an old toppy who just says, it's evil weed. But I just didn't care for him promoting that as a business executive, as someone that people look up to.
Yes, 100%.
So I had a problem with it. If he did it in his personal time off, and somebody caught him, looked over his wall and took a picture, and he's smoking weed, I would have never said anything to him. But he goes in a probe. So I had a problem with that. But other than that, I think he's absolutely brilliant. I mean, I like how, was it Kamala Harris or somebody in Congress the other day talked about, or maybe it was, I think it was what's his name? Bernie Sanders, the fake Russian communist socialist from Vermont. Anyway, he, the guy with 4 houses, and he says, the rich people, man, get the rich people. Hey, that's you, buddy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't have 4 houses. I'd love to have 4 houses. Not really. It's a lot of maintenance. But anyway, so Elon Musk, oh no, it wasn't. Maybe it was Kamala Harris said, "Oh, this will be the year we need to look at this. Elon Musk, all this money. He made all this money. It's filthy." And he says, "I don't know if you realize, but because of my stock sales this year, I will pay more this year than any American has ever paid in their entire lifetime in the history of this country in taxation." He's going to have to pay tens of billions of dollars in income tax this year to the federal government. It just shows the hatred of people who are successful. And Elon Musk is successful. And he's not successful because he exploited people in coltan mines in the Congo, or because he's got people 3 miles under the surface of the earth digging gold up for him, or that he's had a sweatshop in Thailand or in China. He got rich with ideas, bringing creative people around him. The only other problem I have here, and I don't think you'll take offense, but the only other problem I have with this is that his company is very woke. What I mean by this is that there is a conscious effort in this country and in the West, the Anglo-Saxon world, to demonize males, Anglo-Saxon males. And being an Anglo-Saxon male, obviously I'm cognizant. 38% of the population of this country are white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males. Well, they're not Protestant Catholic. They're white guys. Almost 40% of the country are white guys. You can't find a white guy in a commercial on my television anymore unless it's an erectile dysfunction ad, or they're a buffoon, or they're just a filler. Everybody in my ads that we see on television here are people of color, usually mixed race, or interracial marriages. By the way, in the States, black men, white women is the lowest percentage of interracial marriages. The highest percentage is white men, Asian women. That's That's over half the interracial marriages in America are white men, Asian women. But you don't ever see that. They don't. My point is that they don't tell the truth, and they're doing it to push an agenda here. 13.5% of this country is black, and there's nothing wrong with that. nothing right with it either. It's just what it is. But
it is
when
what it is.
85% of the people on camera are black, or when let's be generous and say 10% of the population is gay. It's not, but it's probably close to 5-6%.
Yeah.
But when 30% of the people that appear are same-sex couples in your ads, there's clearly an agenda at work here. Just like when it was all white people, 20, 30 years ago, and no people of color, there was an agenda there too. And
clearly,
the problem I have with that is it doesn't reflect reality and it distorts things. And I'm going to go a little bit longer here, Free. So when I was teaching at the War College, we have a summer intern program, and we get students from all over the country, mostly at Ivy League schools like Bucknell and Harvard and Yale. They come here, many from this area in Pennsylvania. Others come just because it's prestigious for them to have an internship at the War College. So they come here and they help out professors like myself and others. Including our civilian professors, especially researching books and things like that. And they work for us and do research and do admin, stuff like that. And what happens is that they'd go downstairs to eat in a little cafeteria every day. This is when I first arrived there after I came back from Ethiopia. And so I go down there and I'd see these kids and I try to introduce myself because I'm a friendly person. I like to talk to everybody. People have stories, even younger folks. I was young. I had a story then. So I like to listen to stories. Or I'd hear them talking, and they're talking about, and this, of course, is Freddie Gray, Trayvon Martin, Ferguson, Missouri. All this nonsense was going on at the time, most of which is complete lies, what actually happened there. But this is going on. And so they're talking about it, and this is dominating the conversation. And I talked to him. I said, listen, let me ask you guys a question. What do you think the percentage of America's population that's actually black or African American, or even mixed race? What do you think? And these are college students. Some are graduates, postgraduates for master's degrees, and they're all from middle class or upper middle class families for the most part. There were a few who were financial aid students there, not for the internship, but that's how they got to school. But mostly people well off, and they should be well educated and know what's going on. The average answer I got was 35% of America's population is black. About a quarter of these people think that half of America is black. If half of America is black, we'd be one of the largest African countries. That would give us 180 million black folks instead of 45 million. Now, again, it doesn't matter. That's not the issue. But the point here is that when you lie about things and you distort the reality on the ground, whether you put only white people in a show or you really poison the environment. And so people, it's just like, Kyle Rittenhouse is racist because he shot black people. No, he didn't. He might be a racist. He's not, but he's not a racist because he shot black people. He didn't shoot any black people. That's just a lie. Yeah. And that's the stuff that bothers me, and it's very frustrating. And because I believe in the truth.
It's
and
not. It's hidden. And it's not even about the fact that it was self-defense anymore.
Well, yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse, absolutely. If you see the video, and that's the thing, most of these people that were running their mouth in the media, by the way, that's slander and libel if it's printed or said. And these people are very quiet now. Do you know why? Do you remember the Covington case? Did you see that, where this Native American was beating a drum in D.C. and this group of high school students from Kentucky went there a couple years ago while Trump was president, and they were there for a D.C. visit. They were on the mall. They were seeing monuments, and all these people did this thing, and they tried to make it a racist thing. Racist white students harass Native American. And what it was, fortunately, lots of people recorded this. This guy, who was a fake Vietnam veteran. He claimed to be a Vietnam veteran war. He was in the army in Vietnam, in the States, not in Vietnam. So he lied about that. He's standing there with a drum, beating it, and he keeps getting right up in the face of the 16-year-old kid who didn't react. He just smiled. He's just trying to be peaceful. He's a Christian. He's trying to, de-escalate the thing. And this guy was escalating, causing problems. That got turned into a narrative. These white racist kids went there and were harassing and haranguing a Native American. But fortunately, after that all blew up and the lies came out and the media lost it and lied about it, CNN especially, people had other footage. It was recorded to show the entire situation. These kids never did anything. They never approached this guy. They were just standing there waiting for their transportation. And it all got turned into a lie. But fortunately, in the age of mobile phones, it was caught by somebody.
Yes.
And so
that's the good thing.
That kid now is a multimillionaire because CNN paid him a settlement into tens of millions of dollars for defaming him. So what I'm getting at is that if you work for Trevor Noah, or you work for MSNBC, or you work for CNN, you ought to be talking to your lawyers now, because I suspect Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be a wealthy young man.
Yeah. Wow. I don't want to get off the subject of reggae too much, but it's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, let's get back to reggae. So how did you first get into it? I mean, were you a musician or a singer or a composer, and then you got into reggae, or you fell into it, or you like, wait a second, it's gravitated? Did you do another type of music before this?
I played guitar from the age of 8, but I sort of was playing in the church and just playing, cover songs.
Wait a second. Okay, church, guitar, you're white, you're a child of privilege.
Do you know?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I grew, well, actually, after my relationship and my children and all of that, and I literally, my children's father is a musician.
Okay.
So that was my entree into the music industry, actually. But he didn't ever support my music. I supported his music.
Well, what was his genre of music?
Pop,
okay,
commercial.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful, very talented artist. However, the relationship didn't work. And after that, I started composing music, just general. But shortly after that, I met a reggae artist. His name was Tosh. He called himself Tosh. Roots Tosh Cele. Tosh after Peter Tosh.
Yeah, of course.
This was such a profound meeting for me. He was playing in a market, just a flea market, busking, and he had a baby sleeping and a little boy dancing with him. And he used to busk every week. I used to see him there, and we used to, and he used to make a good income every once a week. And a couple of years on, I saw him on the beachfront one day, and he was doubled over in pain, and he was like, something was wrong. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey, buddy, are you okay?" And he said, "No, he's hungry." Oh, my goodness me. And I lived across the road. So I went home. I said, "I'm coming back." I went home. I made him a sandwich, and we started to chat. And so I got to know him, took him home for lunch, met my children. And he came up with the idea of, why don't we do music together? Mm-hmm. He saw my guitar there, and so we started playing together, and literally became a band called the Undivided Roots. His children had then become a little bit bigger, so his son was playing the bass, and the little girl was playing drums, and we busked around, and we did some casual gigs. Couple of years on, things didn't go so well, and we were never in a relationship. It was purely always about music. He had 7 children of his own and a beautiful family. Yeah. When things started to work, he turned and he got a sense that now maybe I was exploiting his children. I don't know where it came from. It just hit me completely like a curveball. So I just said, "No, thank you. That's not what's happening here, but thank you very much. I'm out." And I moved on. And but now during this interaction, this brother had a strong sense that he was very deeply influenced by Peter Tosh, even to the extent where he related a story where he said he had been beaten up by the police on a racial thing, beaten literally to death. And he said during that process, this is a very interesting story I'm telling you. He said during that process, spirit of Peter Tosh entered into his body. And I really listened to him. I heard him, and I observed him, and I got that this could just be what he believes, but I actually bought into it because he was very genuine. Mm-hmm. And he said one very interesting thing to me. He said, "And you know what?" He said, "Bob Marley is in Durban." And I scratched my head. Well, what are you even talking about, And I didn't think anything more of it until a few years later, when I was introduced to a band called the Meditators. And this brother, Shante Bekwa, who's the leader of the Meditators, is literally the Bob Marley of South Africa.
Ah, that's what was meant by it. Okay.
Yeah. But in the same way that he really embodies the spirit of Bob Marley.
Sure.
Yeah. So I have these 2 strong connections. One of the Peter Tosh, who was very militant, and the brother even was like that. He was very much like Peter Tosh, whereas Bob Marley was very much more on the peaceful side of things. So I think I've had quite a deep introduction to these 2 legendary and iconic reggae artists, just through my own local experience of 2 artists who literally embody those two artists. Mm-hmm. So when I started working with the Meditators, that was in 2000. The brother already had one album recorded, which he did when he was 20 years old, which was in 1990. So we're talking about like more than 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And at the time, he expressed to me that at the time, he really felt like he had made it with that album. It was a phenomenal album. If I can, I'll send you some of the tracks. The quality was not good. So, but it didn't happen for him. Nothing ever happened for him on a commercial level, because right then, Lucky Dube was a rising star. Sure. And so he kind of just kept going on the side. And now 6 albums later, he's one of the most prolific and profound reggae artists in South Africa. Wow. So my next point to you is that maybe in the future I could do an interview with you with him.
Oh, absolutely. That sounds a good plan. I should just interject very quickly. I happily promote South African music, and for me, it started with promoting Afrikaans music because I listen to Afrikaans music, and so I've had Steve Hofmeyer on my channel. I had Giselle. I've had Monty Jackson. I'm not a country music fan, but Monty's big in country. Okay. Tomorrow, I have Jeanette Pretorius, who's an Afrikaans country performer and sings children's songs, which will be nice to have her on. And so, and now I've got you on. I'm happy to promote musicians. I don't know. Are you familiar with Trevor Donjane, who was the lead bass player for Johnny Clegg for a long time? Trevor Donjane is okay. He's a jazz artist. Yeah.
I don't know him. Yes.
Yeah, he's from Gauteng, but he lives in Durban. And Trevor's been on my program a few times. In fact, he'll be on Christmas. And in fact, I don't want to put you on the spot, and you don't have to answer, but I'll extend it just as because I have a Christmas show on the 23rd. And while I have the show to celebrate the birth of Christ, but also for the secular purpose, because people enjoy Christmas for Christmas. I mean, and look behind me, you see all the secular stuff, right?
Yes.
So you don't see, other than an angel back there, there isn't anything that's really religious back there. So I invite these artists on, and I if you're interested, if you'd like to call in briefly, it's a 3-hour program, and I have people call in, and you just relate your experiences, a Christmas story, or maybe a family tradition or something you've done, or and that's all it is. If you'd like, you're welcome to come on, and that's on the 23rd. So I'll extend an invitation now. And was that a yes, that you like the invitation, or that you're coming on?
That's a yes.
Okay, all right.
That's a yes.
Then we have another artist added to the program. So
thank you.
And you're welcome. You're welcome to stay. I only thing I ask for people is they stay for 10 minutes or so, but they can stay for a half hour. I give people half-hour blocks to appear, and that way you're not tied to a timeline. And so Christmas Day. Anyway, sorry, I didn't get away from it, but I just wanted to remember.
Great.
Trevor will be on the program that night, along with Steve Hofmeyer, Monty Jackson, and all these other performers.
That's wonderful.
And now yourself.
I'm completely blown away that you're following the Afrikaans music scene.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I'm huge. I mean,
it's a huge industry. It's the only music industry that's working in South Africa.
That's true, and it's very effective despite. Well, it's I shouldn't say a small population, because it's the third most spoken language in South Africa, and lots of people listen to it. But the image is that it's just whites, but it's not. I mean, look at Referenza and this new kid that just came up called Gift, who's really amazing. But Afrikaans performance, I've always liked it. Music has always been a good way for me to learn a language, and I self-taught myself Afrikaans. I can't speak it for beans, but I can read it and write it. When I learned German became easier for me, because German music was huge pop music at the time, and I listened to Nena, and I'd listen to all these different groups in Germany that sang in German, and then you go get the lyrics, and you listen, and then you get the pronunciation. And it's the same with Afrikaans. So
that's it. Yes,
there's a lot of artists that I really enjoy. I like Kurt Darren. I'm a huge Snotkop fan. A lot of people are like, what, you like Snotkop? Well, I like rap, and he's really cheeky.
Yes.
I mean, and with him, it's nice, because then you learn the colloquialisms and how the language is twisted. And you don't get that with just people singing regular music.
Afrikaans is a beautiful language.
It is. It's
exquisite.
Amazing. It is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's a truly African creation. And people, it's Dutch. It's not Dutch. It may have came from Dutch origins, among others, but it's not Dutch. I mean, I know people in the Netherlands who can't understand Afrikaans.
Yeah. But for us, it's easy for us to understand Netherlands and Dutch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it is easy going backwards, but for them, because of all the Malay that comes in there, the Khoi, the San,
that's right.
The Koso words that come in there, they're like, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So no, I promote music, and that's during the lockdown. When the lockdown started, I had retired from active service. Of course, I didn't have a beard because you can't have active duty, but did have short hair.
Yeah.
But I retired from active service in October 2019 after 36 and a half years in the Army.
Oh,
and
wow.
I intended to have a consultancy that was trying to get American businesses to invest in Africa for the betterment of Africans and for Americans, because, a rising tide can lift all boats. And if we don't do business in Africa, by 2050, we're going to be a second-rate economic power because Africa's population is going to go from 1.3 billion to 2.4, 2.5 billion.
Yes.
And we can't, that's not going to stop. Even if you sterilize millions of people, it's not going to stop. It's just built in demographically. That growth isn't coming in Asia. It's not coming in Latin America. It's not coming in Europe, which is dead. It's not coming in North America because our growth is so much slower. So Africa will have 900 million consumers with disposable income in the year 2050. America has about 190 million consumers right now with disposable income. So if we don't take advantage of that and be part of that, we're going to miss out. So I started the consultancy to get people to do that's why the Indaba Africa group. And then as soon as I booked all these trips to Africa with businesses in April, I booked them in January, February for March and April. Lockdown came. Travel restrictions. Couldn't go anywhere because of COVID hysteria. So I said, well, I could sit around and get fat and let my brain go to mush, or I could do something useful. So I started using my existing YouTube channel to make videos to promote Africa, to talk about strategic issues and such. And my channel went from 2 subscribers to 22,000 subscribers in less than 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well done.
Well, then I got censored.
But you know what, Chris, you're doing great work.
Well, thanks.
Just the connection is wonderful because, it's very enlightening. And I think the communication it's all spiritual. Every little work that we do is affecting the whole. So even for me, just to be on your show is such a great privilege. And even the opportunity to be introducing you to our local African reggae.
I'm excited about that.
Blown away. Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Thank you. I'm truly excited and thrilled.
No, but you're right about the contributing to the whole. And let me just give a quick anecdotal story, and it's going to sound like I'm tooting my own horn. That's because I am. No,
and you're welcome.
I have a vuvuzela over here. Maybe I could toot that. I hate those things. But anyway, but seriously, so you just had the elections, and I've been harping since June of last year about how important these elections were, and it fell on deaf ears in South Africa. Almost nobody showed up. 31% of the people voted. Very frustrating. Anyway. There is a party in a town, which I'm waiting to do a complete series of interviews and release this publicly because it has now happened. We have the information, but I'm not releasing it yet, but I will be doing it soon, hopefully between Christmas and New Year's. But there's a party that ran, it's a small local party that ran in Northwest Province, and an election observer, a independent analyst who is a data person, looked at the elections across the country, and he found an anomaly. In one ward in this town, the number of votes awarded to the EFF was not 17, but 197. That difference was enough that on proportional representation, the EFF got a seat that they shouldn't have gotten by that clerical mistake. We'll call it a clerical mistake.
Ooh.
So this party got no seats.
Okay.
They got no seats on the council in a small town, but it matters. So I found out about it in the course of interviewing the analyst to talk about the outcome of the election. Did he see anomalies, that sort of thing? And so we did that. Offline, I said, hey, listen, can you put me in touch with that party? I mean, I won't reach out to them. You ask them if they're willing to come on. I'll interview them. We don't even have to talk about this dispute with the Independent Electoral Commission because they're dealing with it right now. We can just talk because I want to talk to political parties about why they exist, what they hope to accomplish, what motivated them, why they're there.
Yes.
So they came on, and I said if they want to talk, we'll do it. So we talked about that at the end. We got offline after this thing. I kept them on the Zoom, and I said, listen, I actually know some lawyers in South Africa. I can't make you any promises. I'm not promising you anything, but I will reach out to a lawyer friend of mine who is very high-powered and well-known and see if he can refer me to someone that does electoral commission things. Because the analyst wrote to the IEC. The IEC told him to footseq. And then the party wrote after finding the error, and they said, footseq, you've offered no evidence. You've outside the 2-day window to appeal. Too bad. And that's not justice. That's not right. So I got hold of an attorney. That attorney called. We set up a Zoom session with the party, their attorneys with the attorney, and they said, well, I know a new organization that does this sort of thing for civic groups and for political parties. Let me see if they want to take on your case. We had another session. They looked at it. They said, yes, we're going to take it on. It'll be our first case because it's a new organization. They sent a letter to the Independent Electoral Commission. Now this is a lawyer's office doing that, right? And a civic group, not a political party that doesn't have millions of rand to get attention like the EFF, the DA, the ANC. So they responded. They said, in fact, you're correct. We looked at the returns. There was an error, and you're correct. That seat should have been awarded to that other party. But we have to give the EFF an opportunity to respond because they can appeal it. So they gave the EFF an opportunity to respond. Apparently, whether they did or didn't, I don't know the outcome of that. That's not my business. But on the 14th of December, 3 days ago, the IEC sent a letter to the South African government, said that this is incorrect. This seat belongs to this other party, and they must be brought in. And there you go. There you go. Who is? Do you know who Lee V is? Somebody shared this link. Is that somebody?
Yes.
Okay.
I shared it too.
Should I let him in?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Do.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So now in South Africa, here's an American in Pennsylvania who has changed the outcome of an election to the correct outcome for the benefit of South Africans.
My God.
Every piece is part of the whole.
Wow. Yes. And you see, and then I mean, in terms of your 2020 election.
Yep.
They still, that is still going to come out to the truth.
Well, I hope so, but I can't really talk much more about it because that's one of the reasons why I got censored. Levy, you are connected, but your mic is on silent and you're not on camera. So if you want to come on, please come on camera and take your mic off silent. Otherwise, it's just a name on a screen. Nobody sees you.
Yeah.
And also, if you've got an earpiece, please put an earpiece in because otherwise we get feedback. Yeah. So look, the whole point of telling the story really wasn't to my own horn. It was to make the point about every piece is part of the whole, and the fact that I take it so seriously that people should get what they voted for, and that party was entitled to that seat legitimately. I follow through. And
also, I mean, it also raises the point of if it happened once, how many other times did it happen?
And see, that is exactly how many times did it happen in this election?
The whole thing is a fraud.
Well, I don't know if the whole thing is a fraud, but certainly there's a fraudulent stuff going on, intentionally or otherwise. Yeah. And here's the fraud part. Here's the fraud part of it, Free. The fact that the Independent Electoral Commission fell back on you didn't respond within 2 days because they didn't even release the results of the election for 3 or 4 days after it was over. So how could a party appeal something that wasn't even released? That's the first problem. I think we've got your audio now, Lee, but we don't have your video. So it looks like he's trying to bring the video now. Anyway, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, how can you ignore a duly constituted party that's registered in South Africa for an election they participate in, and then they send you a letter and you just blow them off like they're nobody's business? If it had been the EFF, the DA, the ANC, they would have responded. But it had to take getting an attorney involved and a civic rights organization. But you know what? Hey, that's what they're there for.
So it's been overturned.
It has been overturned. I don't know when they'll be sworn in, but this party, and that's why I'm holding off on the story. I mean, I've let little dribs and drabs out, but I'll be interviewing the civic organization, their attorney, the political party's leader, the person who's going to sit in the seat, and then also the elections analyst. I'm going to bring it all together, do a live stream, and then I'm going to do a couple specific videos about it. But anyway, welcome, Levy.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's very good.
Hey, Lee. Hey, how you doing? Good, thanks.
Well, man, I'm coming at the tail end, yeah.
Oh, you're definitely at the tail end. We were about to wrap up, but welcome. So, all right. So, let me ask this question, Lee, real quick. We're talking about reggae. What's another pigmentation challenge person doing in the conversation with me?
He's talking to you, Lee.
I think he's puzzled. No, we're having a little fun because we're talking about people's expectations. Your parents, they assume things about you, and Free and I just blew that all out of the water. People should never assume that what you look like is who you are. That's just wrong. So that's why I was having a little go at you there.
Oh, absolutely.
So who is Lee V? Somebody fill me in.
Well,
Lee's a musician. He's a local. He's a local musician.
A local musician. Yeah, I'm now I used in KZN, Free, but I'm now in Cape Town.
Ah, okay.
Oh, okay.
So you're in the mother. So you're in the mother city now.
My screen's frozen.
Yeah. Okay. Good, Lee. Well, all the best. It's nice to see your face.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that Lee is also a reggae performer?
Lee's a general musician, but he does play some reggae.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
And he also writes his own music. Yeah.
Now, I need to let you know that I did get a couple videos from last night that came to me through my WhatsApp. And someone let the cat out of the bag. I got the impression it's actually today, not last night, but apparently it's Erica's birthday. Is that correct? Was it last night? Yeah, okay.
It was, Yes, last night.
Okay.
So her birthday is today. No, her birthday is today.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
we have the Night Owls program, which will be on at 9:30 in a couple of hours, and we'll share a virtual cake with Erica, as I always do for folks on my
Oh,
program.
that's lovely. Yeah. Oh, Erica's a wonderful friend, newfound friend of mine, and just going to be a lifelong friend, I can tell. We just had an absolute ball of a time together yesterday. Yeah. So, and she's obviously the reason why I'm being introduced to you. So, thanks to Erica. Yeah, really.
Yeah, no, she mentioned, she asked me, it was kind of a strange question because, I mean, usually our wires don't get crossed, but it seemed to me like a cross wires question when Erica asked me. She's like, would you be interested in having reggae musicians, local reggae musicians come on your program? I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? I mean, that's,
yeah.
Again,
that's what you do.
Exactly. That's what I do. I try to bring people together and I try to bring people. Look, I mean, I've had the CEO of the Macadamia Nut Association of South Africa as a guest. And most people are like, what?
Oh, wow.
Why? I said, well, because I'm trying to find positive stories about South Africa. And South Africa is the world's largest producer and exporter of macadamia nuts.
Macadamia nuts, yes. Imagine.
It may sound trivial, but hey, that's an accomplishment. And actually, it's interesting because a lot of the people in the macadamia nut sector are actually women and people of color. Not that I'm promoting or trying to, I'm just pointing out the facts, because people are always talking about diversity in farming. That's one sector it's occurring, and nobody's paying attention to it. So I thought
and a good thing is that they are changing sugarcane farming into macadamia. It's transitioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good thing.
Yeah, so so that was an interesting thing. So I'll talk to anybody. Last week I had the deputy to the assistant, or the deputy to the mayor of Zurich, Switzerland, on my channel, talking about Zurich and the history of Zurich and as a tourist destination.
Yeah.
And obviously, I bring on people that I in topics I know something about, or at least I can do credible research about it, so that we have a good conversation. But it's about letting people know what's going on, and that's why we do it. And as you and I have discussed already, I love promoting music, especially South African music, but not exclusively. There's these two kids. I don't know if you heard about this, Free or Lee. There's these two kids. Now I can call them kids because I'm in my 50s. But these two kids in Australia, Bradley Marshall and Paul Casper. They are both two separate musicians, young men. Well, the one guy, what does he do? Tell me what he's doing. He works somewhere. But anyway, they got together and they recorded a song called Rise, which is about standing up to the oppression going on politically in Australia. It's a beautiful song. I play it on my program, and I took their audio. What I did is actually I saw him because one of my viewers is in Australia, and he gave me a live feed on his mobile, and we covered the demonstration that had 400,000 people in Melbourne a couple weekends ago. So we covered that live because no one else is covering it. And then when it covered it at the end, they went to the stage, and this kid got up by himself. Now, Bradley was there. Bradley's half Filipino, half Australian Anglo, so he's white Filipino. And so he got up and sang, and he sang the song made famous by the Seekers about "We Are One." I'm Australian, you're Australian, we are all Australian. So, it's a really famous song, and he sang it really well. So I looked him up. I found him on Facebook. I sent him an email or a message on Facebook. Within an hour, he wrote back and said, "I'd love to come on your program. Can Paul come on?" I said, "Yeah, please bring both of you." So I hosted him. Of course, I had to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning to do this because of the hour there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I had them on, and what I did in the meantime is I said, listen, can I promote your music? I don't want to get a copyright claim or something like that. He's like, no, please share music. So he sent me the original audio, and I took that and I made I took photographs from the demonstrations, the police brutality and stuff like that, and of images of Melbourne. I put them all together in a collage that's animated, and it flows through the song, and I sent it back to him. I said, is this okay? And he goes, oh, this is amazing. Thank you. So I play that now on my channel. They were guests on my program. I've invited them to Christmas, but they're going to have to come on at 5 o'clock in the morning for them, but they'll be on the program from Australia. So, I mean, I promote music, whatever I can get my hands on music, but I do focus on
fantastic.
I do focus on South African scene. So when Eric asked me if I would mind bringing reggae artists, I'm like, no, why would I mind?
Oh, what a pleasure. Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to introducing you. And we've got, as I say, I've got a whole host of bands. And I think it would be fantastic to just, over the next year, let's just every couple of months introduce a new artist or a new band.
Yeah, we could do that. And if I'm up for that, and if they want to perform, we can have a jam night or something like that, like on a Friday, a night they're not performing.
Let's do that. Let's get that going. I would be blown away to do that. Yeah,
that'd be awesome. Pretty cool.
But Chris, I don't know how much time we've got left, but can you just tell me quickly about your favorite reggae bands from the States? Because maybe you can introduce me to us to some good reggae.
I don't have any connections to any reggae bands because I spent most of my time overseas. I spent 23 of my 36 years in the Army overseas, about a big chunk of that in Africa. But there was a band in Seattle that I was very into. I really liked. They were a local band. I don't think they ever made it nationally. I do have a couple of their CDs from back in the day called Jumbalasi. And Jumbalasi was really cool. And if you look them up on the internet, like Jumba, like Jumbalassse, you could probably find them. Because I looked them up recently and said, hey, are they still around? And I think they're still performing, but they were really good. But beyond that, it's all the big names, and all the top hits. I've got some really great
commercial.
Yeah, a lot of the commercial stuff. Which is fine. I enjoy that as well.
Yes,
because just reggae is just a great genre, But it is also cool to rock up on the beach when guys are playing and or go into like a little club and that's just, and especially when it's original stuff and not just playing cover songs,
Absolutely, yes. Oh no, that's great. I just wanted to ask you one question. Do you know a band from San Diego called Daring Greatly? They're not reggae, but it's a original band, Daring Greatly. Just look them up.
All right,
I'll look them up.
So before we end this program, since Lee popped in on us, Lee, tell us a little bit about yourself there, if you can. Your connection was kind of poor a minute ago. Maybe it'll work now.
Lee, are you there?
Yeah.
Lee, are you shy?
Yeah,
I think there's a delay on his stream.
My connection is lagging very badly here.
Okay, I don't. Yeah, we're here. Okay, I'll take. Maybe you get a better connection from another time. So we'll that's fine. But thanks for joining us, Lee. Just the same. Listen, Free. That sounds like a good plan, Lee. We'll do that when you got a better connection. But Free, it's been a real pleasure. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think you have too, based on your reactions.
Oh, thoroughly. And I had to kind of. Actually, I didn't really prepare for this because I wasn't sure where you were going to go with it.
Yeah.
But I love the ease with which you've just conducted this interview. So thank you very much. You've made it very easy for me. But I have also so much content that I would love to maybe just have a little bit more prepared for the next time that we chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that I'd love to share with you.
There's a reason why I call it the Indaba Conversation with Chris. That's the segment, the playlist for this, because I don't know if this is someone you're familiar with, but there was a journalist, an American journalist named David Frost, who was very famous in the 70s. And David Frost would sit down with world leaders and politicians, sit across from them in a chair, and have a conversation. It was an interview, but it was more of a conversation in which David Frost would share his knowledge and background and use it to direct the conversation. And not that he was my inspiration, but that's what I like to consider this, because an interview is one thing. But, obviously I've shared a lot of my anecdotal experience, like Cote d'Ivoire, my views, your views. And I think that it's much more informative and entertaining for an audience if you have this kind of approach rather than just like, okay, so how'd you get in reggae music? All right, that's great. So how much money do you make? Where do you perform at? I mean, that's all interesting, but this I think is much better. And that's why I call it the Indaba Conversation with Chris.
Yes, it is. And because I have a regular following, so people get to know your people better. Like if I come on every 2 or 3 months, once every 2 or 3 months, and the guests, then they get to know me and I get to know you better. Mm-hmm. And our artists get to know more about what's going on in the world, and your people get to know what's going on with our artists here in South Africa. I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Excellent.
Erica.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And thanks to Erica once again. Happy birthday to her. We'll be mentioning her birthday on the Night Owls edition at 9:30 South Africa time, Botswana time, Namibia time. That's 14:30 here on the East Coast of the United States, coming up in just about 2 hours from now. But thanks a lot. Thanks Lee for popping on with his bad connection late in the game. We'll get him on back. You're very welcome. We'll get you back on another time. And with that, I'll ask each of you to just exit to the. You go out. You can either drop off the stream and then go out to the waiting, whichever you prefer to do. And I'll go ahead and wrap up this and close this. So thanks a lot, folks, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris. All the best.
Cheers. Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That's yet another interesting conversation, I think, and that's with Let me just make sure we got everybody here. Okay. There we go. All right. So thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate my guest Free. That was interesting. That's 2 bang-up guests in a row. We had Rob Hutchison yesterday from Dear SA, which is a fascinating conversation. Today we have Free, who's a reggae performer and a composer and a promoter, I guess is the right word, for organizing concerts and stuff for her band, the Meditators. And then tomorrow, it's Jeanette Pretorius from Yening. Which is not how you would pronounce it in English or German. It's spelled Heunig. in German, we pronounce Heunig. And in German and English, I guess we look at it and go Huning. Anyway, but it's Yening in Afrikaans. So she'll be on the program tomorrow. She is a country music performer known by many Afrikaners and also does other songs in Afrikaans as well as sings children's songs. Quite interesting lady. Got some interesting stuff to talk about. We're going to see her tomorrow on the program. And then we have the Christmas program on the 23rd of December, which I just invited Free to. She accepted the invitation. So she'll be on the program with Steve Hoffmeyer, Giselle, Helen Duplessis, Trevor Dongenet, Dean Chansey, Bradley Marshall, Paul Casper. It's going to be a star-studded, fantastic, as long as nobody backs out on me, evening for Christmas, just like last year. Also reading letters once again to Santa. So don't forget. Send your letters to the email address that the moderators put down there, the All Things Africa 2021. And Santa will put your letters in the mailbox back there and then relocate them to this box because this is where we'll know if you've been naughty or nice. Don't forget, I have my own really expensive Santa outfit, and I'll be dressed as Santa for the kids and the adults. And if you've been naughty or nice, that letter will be in here, and we'll know about it. Please read the Christmas stream information below the video so that you get the guidelines for people sending in letters from children. So there's no personally identifiable information that's in there. The child's name can be in there, the parents' name, that's fine, but not your home address, no mobile numbers, no email addresses, things like that. You can just block it out with a black marker, put a piece of Post-it or tape over that information, scan the letter, or take a photograph of it, preferably a scan in Acrobat. Send the letter to the email address, which hopefully my mods will put up in just a moment. And then if you come on the program during the Christmas program on the 23rd, we will read your letter. If the letter doesn't get here in time, I will read it on the Christmas Eve broadcast or the Christmas Day broadcast as long as you show up in the stream. That way you get to experience Santa reading the letter. Adults can write to Santa if you want, but don't ask me for a Tesla or a Ferrari or a Meade telescope because Santa is all out of iPads and all out of iWatches, Apple Watches, and things like that. So you can tell us about your Christmas experience, why Christmas is special to you, say hi to Santa, whatever you want. That's what it's all about. So thanks a lot, folks. And thanks to my guest Free and for Lee popping in there late in the stream with a bad connection and did his best. But we'll see you on the Night Owls just under 2 hours from now, and we'll mention Erica's birthday. So thanks, Wyatt Army. Appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. God bless. And as Big Daddy Liberty says, never trust a commie. As I say, Chris Wyatt says, never trust the ANC because those cadres are coming for you, yours, and everything you own. And they have no shame about it. All right, folks, God bless and take care. Lovely to see you all here. And Merry Christmas. And I know it was a reggae crowd because there were no super chats. All the poor people watching today. Y'all take care. We'll catch you here later on Chris White Africa's Night Owls. Cheers.